A generous number of model-making books get pushed through the WI Tower letterbox, and sometimes those books have the word railway on the cover. Now, while we always enjoy having a flip through those books, we don't often get to give them coverage, because model railway books generally tend to focus solely on, and no surprises here, railway modelling. That means they miss out on the essential wargaming element that we look for, even if they do have some good hobby tips within, so we can't really give them coverage. Modelling Historic Buildings and Imaginary Structures is a model railway related book that we're given a pass, because just about every model within it would look absolutely magnificent on gaming tables for various historical periods. So we're flipping through it. In the introduction, the author, David Wright, states, "I've purposefully tried to present the contents in a way that I hope will fire the modeller's imagination rather than following exacting constraints." And perhaps that is why this, his 7th book for Crowood, is particularly appealing to us as gamers. We want to recreate the past or breathe life into the imaginary rather than necessarily strive to achieve present-day realism, and the guys in this book aim to do much the same, and they're doing it via a truly expert teacher. The introduction sets out the aims of the book and shows that the author is as comfortable expressing himself with the written word as he is creating brilliant scenery. We particularly like that using scrap or low-cost materials is given first billing in his aims. There are no projects here that you'll need to gather piles of special equipment and materials to achieve. Chapter 1 throws us in at the deep end somewhat. A historic timber frame building's scale construction is shown in quite some detail. This is rather more complex than the standard Wargames Illustrated how-tos, but with a lot of pages to fill, David can afford to get into the details. Here he's building Mary's Lodging, a 16th century half-timbered hunting lodge that was once within the walls of Tudbury Castle. In detail, we're guided through the challenges and techniques in researching and making a model of a building that no longer actually exists. There's a treasure trove of detail about materials and planning before the actual build process is examined. Photographs of real-world buildings, David's own sketches, and workbench snapshots are used here and throughout the book, and these are all of really good quality. There's occasionally a very slight lack of focus in some of the work-in-progress pictures, but we're being extremely picky by even mentioning it. The guide focuses on the techniques used to complete one wall, and then it expands it to the building as a whole. So don't necessarily expect a step-by-step process here, because this isn't the guide for a beginner. David is sharing his expert approaches to model making, and, as long as you have some basic interest and experience in terrain building, his words and creations will inspire you to learn and progress your own projects. The finished model looks great, a fine payoff after the excitement of watching it develop. Did we expect to smile at a close-up photograph of cesspits that David added? No, we really did not, but their inclusion and lovingly rendered finish can't help but bring a weird kind of joy. We love this sort of obsessive attention to detail. After 24 pages of progress and advice, the completed model looks truly excellent, and we feel at least somewhat ready to have a go at something similar ourselves. But it's on to the next chapter and the next project. Much as we'd like to focus in detail on each of the projects, we don't want to spoil it all, so we'll fly past them, but mention that a dovecote built around a drinks cup and an aqueduct cottage are the next historic structures. They're covered in chapters 2 and 3. Chapter 4 is the first to tackle a fully imaginary building, and while it doesn't sound too adventurous on paper, a gamekeeper's hovel, David examines the new challenges of researching and planning before going on to create a beautifully detailed model that's full of life. Chapter 5 is where things get most exciting. A layout diorama is presented, and it's a project that we, as gamers, could easily take and make into an incredible modular board section. There's no doubt that this chapter, showing a construction of a partially ruined castle and its surrounding terrain, is the highlight of the book, and happily, it runs from page 100 to 165, which is close to a third of the book's total length. There are complex levels of varying elevation in this model, along with, and we'll let him off just this once, a train track running through it. So the planning part is extensive. Once into the build itself, it rapidly starts to feel like the kind of board that you'd find used in an exhibition game at a show, but it's made from simple materials. Styrofoam, insulation foam, foam board, cork bark, and some wood offcuts. And it really does take form over the 65 pages, becoming a stunning scene. There's tons of good advice here too, and it's translatable to our own wargaming projects. Realistic rock building and painting, waterfall construction, bridge work, stone embankments, cliffs, caves, and we've not even gotten to the castle itself. There's a folly, ruins, underground elements, and even a quick guide to making a backdrop. The book ends with a chapter that looks at creating the setting for your constructions, which has lots of atmospheric photographs. There's a colour mixing appendix, and there's lists of material suppliers and places of interest to visit in the UK. There's even a useful index at the back of the book, which is pretty rare in a lot of historical ones. So overall, this book is inspirational and informative, and can't help but hope that the author continues to delve into the historical and imaginary in his future projects. If he does, we'll certainly be eager to see what's next on his hobby table.
This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.